everyone, welcome back to another episode of our podcast, Is Breakfast Included? How y'all doing? This week, Bernie and I are joined by the critically acclaimed filmmaker, Danny Garcia. Danny takes us through some of his past projects that have shed light on icons such as Brian Jones, Johnny Thunders, and The Clash. We then discuss his latest documentary, Ghosts of the Chelsea Hotel, and other rock and roll stories. Danny reflects on what it was like to capture the essence of this landmark and why it was important to film on location. Plus, he shares behind-the-scenes stories about how this film came together. Let's check it out.
Tell everyone who you are.
My name is Danny Garcia. I'm an independent filmmaker. I'm from Barcelona, Spain, and I mostly do films for freaks.
For free.
Sorts.
Man, how long have you been making films?
Well, I think that year 2000 is when I started doing documentaries for local television in Barcelona, like zero budget. And then 2008 is when I came up with the idea of doing this documentary on The Clash, which came out in 2012. It took a while. And then from then, we did Looking for Johnny and Sad Vacation, the Sid and Nancy story, and Steve Bader's documentary, Brian Jones' documentary, Nightclubbing, and now the Chelsea. Also a documentary about a Spanish obscure band called Parálisis Permanente, which were like this after punk, darkish sort of rock and roll band. Really interesting. The only kind of interesting band I think that came out of early 80s Spanish rock and roll scene and stuff. But yeah, that's more or less what I've been doing for the last I don't know, how many years is that? 10 plus 15 years.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So before 2000, when you started doing that, had you always been interested in film and videography and so forth?
Yeah, I was actually. I was writing for magazines as well since I was like 19. I'm actually working on a documentary on the Fostons right now, and I interviewed Rudy Protrudi, the singer and leader of the band, back in 1990 when I was writing for one of these Spanish rock magazines. So yeah, and also my family had sort of, connections to the industry and stuff. Not my family directly, but my cousins and stuff. So it was kind of always around the family.
Mm-hmm.
But before the digital revolution, yeah, it was sort of impossible. You had to be a rich kid to be able to study cinema or, do cinema, do films.
Yeah.
Make films.
So with the digital thing, it made everything. Anybody can make a film.
Exactly.
Well, not anybody, but
Yeah, well, everybody can attempt at least to record an album, make a movie, or make music videos, whatever. I mean, photography. It's great. It's given everybody a chance, basically.
Yeah. And why punk music? I mean, I assume you're a big fan of punk music.
Well, I grew up, my brothers were 11 and 7 years older than me. So as a child, I was tortured by Jethro Tull and Supertramp and all that bollocks they were listening to in the mid 70s. And then luckily punk happened, and that was a lifesaver. I mean, I discovered the Rolling Stones when I was 6, and I was like, wow. And I asked my father, give me a record, please, and he got me Aftermath. And from then on, like, every chance I had, I would get another record of the Rolling Stones, and I started just collecting, like, obsessively, since I was a little boy. And then The Clash, I fell in love with The Clash when I was like, 9 or something. And then the Pistols, I grew up with Nevermind the Bollocks and the Great Rock and Roll Swindle soundtrack. And to me, that was like my Bible. you know, and then the Buzzcocks and Generation X and so on and so forth. So, I guess, the sounds you listen to when you're a kid are the ones that are most important for you, growing up, while your brain is developing and stuff, those sounds they turn out to be, I mean, when I get chills, I listen to Joy Division and stuff, and I don't get chills when I listen to, I don't know, whoever is going on right now, like, I don't know what the fuck is, a big band right now. I was thinking of Kings of Leon, but those guys haven't been around for a while, right? Or Strokes or something. But anyway, I don't get chills with those guys,
Yeah.
But I listen to Velvet Underground or something like that, and I do get chilled, or the Stooges, or you know, old stuff, Ramones, I
Yeah.
met the Ramones when I was a kid, and I was like so enthralled, I was like, well, I couldn't believe it. It was
Yeah.
like one of the most important things that happened in my life because Didi was my hero. I was a bass player when I was a little kid. I mean, when I was 14, I started playing bass and shitty bands, local bands and stuff. And so Didi was like my hero, and when I met them, I was like, oh my God. That was like one of the most important things that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Or meeting Steve Baders too. I was 17 when I met the Lord's Living Church. And Steve was like the nicest dude ever.
Yeah. So I get what you're saying about you get chills. Do you think it's because that music was made? Those bands, they were. I always say they were in a zone when they made those records. I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan. I still get chills
Yeah,
anytime I
yeah, I'm
hear
sure.
anything off, Masters of Reality or something like that.
I mean, I love those first four albums or whatever, Sweet Leaves. I mean, that's amazing stuff. I don't know, man. There was a lot of creativity back then. Nowadays, it's like everything has been done already. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Reggae music, even probably drum and bass was one of the, you know, last things that happened that was actually different from anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everything's been done. Everything. I mean, I'm surprised still when somebody grabs a guitar, or that group Jet from Australia came out with that hit, and it was like, dude, that's like the same three chords we always listen to, but the guy came out with a new melody, and it happened. Kids are still writing amazing songs today. It is
Yeah.
possible
Yeah.
with those same notes that everybody's played before. You can still fuck around with them and can come up with a hit, and
Yeah.
that's the amazing part of it. But more or less, everything's been done, you know, to the nth degree. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Unless you start making noise, like actual noise, I don't know what else can be new. You know what I mean? At this point,
Yeah.
because everything's been fucking done, dude.
Yeah. It's those same 3, 4 chords. Like you said, different melodies. Every now and then there's a diamond in the rough that comes out and they use
Of
those 3, 4
course.
chords to do something really special. But for the most
Mm.
part, it's all just rehashed.
I mean, you listen to David Bowie or something, and one of those old like Z Stardust or whatever, it's like, wow, dude. I mean, just the creativity these guys had, or think about how all these singers, like, I don't know, like David Byrne, the Talking Heads, they sung like weird. You know what I mean? They didn't sing like normal singers. They sung like weird. All the psychedelic furs, all the Cure, all the after punk bands, or Joy Division, they didn't sing like a normal, like Tom Jones, let's say, you know what I mean? There was a new thing, and they were trying different avenues, and there was this creativity, and people were looking for new things like television. There's nothing like television. I mean, I'm sure some people that listen to progressive rock would say, "Well, I've heard that before," but I never listened to progressive rock except when my brothers were torturing me with their fucking music when I was a little boy. Luckily I don't remember any of Chick Corea or Korea or whatever the fuck they were listening to, man. But you know what I mean? But yeah, there was something. There was something in the air. I mean, look, New York was in shambles, bankrupt. It was fucked up city, dangerous, and all these things were coming out of it at the same time. So it's really amazing stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, nowadays everybody's very comfy and everybody's got their phone, and at the tip of your finger, you got everything you need. It's a different world, man. It's not the 20th century anymore. It's a new world.
Yeah, even as far back, growing up, even in the 80s, I was part of I used to look in the back of magazines to do tape trading, and it was
Yeah,
so exciting to get tapes from
yeah.
everywhere, really, and send them.
Bootlegs,
Yeah,
concerts. People would record concerts with their fucking little, Walkmans or whatever, and put them out on the market, and you could buy tapes. I remember buying tapes of Rolling Stones rehearsals in London, and like outtakes and stuff. And that I'm talking about the '90s when I was living in London, and I'm sure there were tapes because I don't think we had. I mean, yeah, we had CDs actually. They could be CDs, but anyway, you could find amazing stuff like outtakes of songs you never heard, rehearsals. I don't know, crazy shit. Back then, all this stuff before the internet, you had to have it physically, right? Cassettes and tapes and CDs and whatnot.
yeah,
And we gave a lot of importance to these things. These things were really important to us, like LPs and who produced this, or who was the drummer in this album, or the bass player in the album.
yeah,
I don't know. We were kind of freaks, when you think about it. But
yeah,
that's the way it was back then. There was no
yeah,
fucking internet. Information was, passed from
yeah,
one dude to the other, reading magazines, reading books, whatever. So it was just a different world back then,
yeah.
basically.
Liner notes were just as important as the music on the album to me.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, and the cover, the back cover
Mhm.
information, the lyrics, everything. We
Yeah,
devoured all that information. I mean, that's how I started to learn English. It was through music. I mean, I'm still learning, but yeah, it was always through music.
well, let's talk a little bit about your newest film, man. Ghost of the Chelsea Hotel. What brought that on?
Well, basically, I was doing this documentary on Max's Kansas City and the punk thing in New York. And we interviewed, what was her name? Fuck man. I can't smoke too many joints these days. I keep forgetting stuff. Um, oh my God. We interviewed this woman who was part of the Warhol crew. It's Ruby Lean, right?
Ruby Lynn Reiner.
Ruby Lean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry about that. We interviewed her, and she told us a really funny anecdote about her going to the Chelsea to meet Bob Marley and the Wailers, and it was just hilarious. And I thought, fuck me, we could actually put a few of these stories together and come up with something new. So that's what we did when I was doing the premieres in New York of nightclubbing. We started shooting interviews at the Chelsea, and with people who still live there, people who lived there, or spent some time there, whatever, residents and ex-residents, long-time residents and ex-residents.
Yeah.
And, we came up with something pretty cool, interesting. The story of the hotel is about the history of the hotel. And also, we highlight a few of the freaks that lived there. But we wanted to focus on people who weren't. I mean, obviously, we have to mention Patti Smith and a few of those big names
Yeah.
that live there. But we also talk about Harry Smith, that like nobody remembers who he is, but this guy was like a really, really important, mover and shaker back in the day. I mean, he came up with this anthology of American folk music, which then led to the folk explosion. Like Bob Dylan and the Lovin' Spoonful and all those guys were learning songs from this bootleg that this guy had put together. This guy was a total freak, like a hoarder, collector, and stuff.
Hmm.
Really, really interesting fella. So there's a section we talk about him. Then we talk about George Kleinsinger, which was this composer that was, really, really famous. Can't remember the fucking songs, some of the songs he wrote, but like, he was writing like Broadway stuff, I mean, like a major dude, Of course, nobody knows who he is these days. So we wanted to highlight a few of these people that are not really talked about all the time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Didi Ramon is there. We talk about Didi as well. We obtained some unseen footage of Didi jamming at the Chelsea and stuff. So of course, and Didi was one of my heroes growing up. So obviously, I wanted to talk about him as well and how crazy he was. I mean, he was there when he quit the Ramones. So it was an interesting part of his life because he was like sort of up in the air before he started doing his solo projects and stuff. It's interesting. And then besides that, yeah, we mentioned, of course, there's a lot of people that live there that are like, really, really major and stuff. And you got obviously with this mention of Larry Rivers, a lot of people talking about Warhol. I mean, we got Howie Pyro in the film, talking about how he was selling coke while he was there to people like Tom Waits, etc.
Yeah.
There's a lot of crazy stuff, yeah, it's interesting. It's a little interesting rock and roll documentary,
Yeah. What was the craziest story you heard while making the documentary?
Well, the thing is, I called the documentary "Ghosts of the Chelsea Hotel and Other Rock and Roll Stories," but I didn't mean the actual ghosts.
Yeah.
I was talking about, I was talking about the spirits of all these artists that had lived there years ago and stuff, But when I mentioned this to the people I was interviewing, they actually started telling me stories, paranormal shit
Yeah.
that they have experienced in the hotel.
Yeah.
So, that was pretty wild because out of, I interviewed maybe 20 people or 24, whatever, and half of them had stories, either firsthand stories or their neighbor told them the story, you know what I mean? And it's pretty freaky stuff. So what I did, I made a segment of these stories towards the end of the film, and it all ties up with the beginning of the film, which is like the creation of the hotel and why there was an empty lot there. So it all kind of ties up pretty nicely at the end.
Yeah.
So freaky stories. I mean, there's stories of suicides, people jumping, and killing themselves. There's all sorts of shit. Wild parties going on upstairs in the room where the Grateful Dead performed. Um, yeah, it's a lot of crazy shit, man. That's how I love the Chelsea. I mean, I don't feel any of this crazy ghostly energy when I get there. I've not seen anything or perceived anything, but a lot of people have. I mean, there's a bunch of really interesting stories.
I know.
Did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Did you face any challenges in getting access to the spaces or the individuals connected to the hotel's past?
Well, I mean, it was kind of easy because we know this woman who's been living at the Chelsea since like 1981 or something, Mandalay, and she helped us access the hotel, and we sort of roamed around kind of freely through the corridors and went up and down the elevator, and they were pretty cool. They were pretty chill with us, like the new owners. They were still renovating. I think they still are renovating right now. There's many floors, many rooms and stuff. So, yeah, but I mean, yeah, we didn't have a lot of problems. I mean, always when we approach like the big names, most of the time we don't get them, because we're not the BBC or HBO and stuff, So, with the little guys, so like people like Iggy Pop and stuff, they don't give a fuck. But I'm really happy with the actual cast we have of Misfits.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a lot of famous people besides Michael Imperioli, who lived and worked and actually co-wrote Summer of Sam at the hotel. There's a cool ghost story that goes with that as well. So yeah, we don't have a lot of famous people in it, but I don't give a fuck. I just want to tell a story, and the story's told, and regardless, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's the way we do it.
Yeah. First of all, man, I love your attitude approaching all that. The speaking of Michael Imperioli, I read an article just trying to research your film, and he said he couldn't have made Summer of Sam without a witch that he met living at the Chelsea Hotel.
I know that's too funny, right? Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't surprise me because at the Chelsea you had drug dealers, you had prostitutes, go-go dancers, you had all sorts of freaky people. So a witch is kind of mild.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really normal that there would be somebody up there, doing, I don't know, reading cards or reading your palm or your future or whatever. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Uh,
But it's kind of funny that he actually did something to make it happen. So
yeah.
yeah, but that's another little quirky story of the Chelsea.
Yeah, and in reading the article, I found it kind of brave because normally people won't share something like that, but he shared it like, hey, she told me I was going to get it made, just not the way I wanted to get it made. So
That's cool. I know,
most people
it's
would think
crazy,
you're
but but
crazy
but
if you say something like that.
yeah, but the Chelsea is that kind of a space where all of this goes. Anything goes, especially back then.
Yeah,
Nowadays, it's a different story.
yeah,
But I think back then it's like, business as usual.
yeah. You mentioned HBO and BBC, the big guys there. Normally, when you see something like this, a documentary that they would make, you see them
Yeah.
interviewing people at their home. How important was it for you to do everything on location at the Chelsea?
Well, it was very, very important because we're talking about the building is the main star of the show. So we wanted to show as much as we could from the hotel. And so we were very, very lucky to have Manlai just help us access the hotel, and we shot a few interviews in her apartment, because at some point you cannot bother everybody, every day,
Okay.
because we shot a few interviews in the middle of corridors and stuff. So, or on the staircase. And they're an operating hotel right now. It's open to the public, so you have tourists or whatever, and then residents going in and out. So, but it was all good. It was pretty chill, to be honest.
Yeah. Uh, did anyone ever talk about the Room 100 and what happened there and so forth?
Yes, yes. There's also a freaky ghostly story about that. Room 100 doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Actually, where our friend lives is the same hallway where Sid and Nancy live. Also, there's another story. We got Harley Flanagan from Chromax and Stimulators fame, and he was the first person with his two friends to stay there after the Sid and Nancy incident. And he still has the key, and he shows it to the camera and stuff.
Wow.
And he's got some wild stories of his stay there. Yeah, it's really cool, man. It's actually a nice little documentary. I'm really happy with it because it's kind of different from the other stuff I've done. The look of it and stuff, it's pretty cool, man.
Yeah. And how I know you've been doing screenings everywhere. You were just here in Brooklyn. How have the screenings been going? How's the audience reaction to them?
I mean, so far so good. I mean, a lot of people have told me this is the best documentary you've ever done. I don't know. That's what a few people told me, more than one. Um, New York was great. We did 3 nights at Joe's Pub, and it was sold out for 3 nights. It was really great. And then we've done other cities. Some went really well, some others not so well because there's no promo. It's very little promo and stuff that we do on social media and stuff. But it's been going good. I mean, I went to London, I did the premiere there. I was really good. Then we went to Berlin. It was sold out in Berlin. It was a small theater, but still, it was really a really cool event. And yeah, we continue to do screenings wherever we can. And I'm really happy with the people's reaction so far.
Yeah. And you said you were filming a movie right now, or getting ready to film a movie. Anything you could talk about that?
Yeah, it's a bit of a horror movie. The backdrop is the south border of Arizona and Mexico. It's the film is called Death Border, and basically it's about a group of paramilitary patriots patrolling the border on Halloween, and mysteriously they start dying one by one. And yeah, I mean, we're exposing the humanitarian drama that's going on right now at the border, and we're shooting it in Almeria and Tabernas in Spain, which is uncannily similar to the south of Arizona.
Mhm.
I was there myself last Christmas, traveling from Tombstone all the way back to New York with this police car that we bought, this Crown Vic, doing the Blues Brothers thing, and it was amazing. Arizona is like the most beautiful state I've seen in the United States. I mean, I recommend everybody to visit Arizona. And yeah, it's so similar. It's just amazing. So yeah, we're shooting it here where it's a lot cheaper to shoot films than in the United States, for us at least. And yeah, we start next Monday, so we're really excited.
Right on, man.
I have a question.
Yeah, dude.
How do you maintain the balance between artistic storytelling and factual accuracy in your documentaries?
In my documentaries, all I'm interested in is the facts, and that's it. I mean, I want to tell the truth, even if it hurts. You know what I mean? I mean, sometimes people go into details about people's sexual lives, and I'm not interested in that. I don't want to, that's not what I'm interested in. But I'm interested in, you know, I don't know, the dynamics in bands, how four people create a fucking band and they, rock the world, and then they split up and they end up hating each other, and then there's egos and there's this and there's that, and there's all these things. And it's fascinating, for me at least. That's why, I mean, I've always enjoyed interviewing people and learning about other people's lives, people, especially people who are like, off the wall freaks, musicians, artists,
Yeah.
photographers, and so on and so forth. People who live a life that's not 9 to 5, people who live different lives. So when I'm making documentaries, all I want is to have as much material as possible. Like, let's say this Fuston's documentary I'm working on right now, I'm doing a co-production with them, with Rudy, and I'm getting all these videos and photography and audio, songs, songwrites, everything, so I have a lot of stuff. And, if you put it on chronologically, you want to have as much material from that specific year you're talking about. You know what I mean? If you're talking about 1985, you want that picture to be from 1985 and make it as accurate as possible, because we do give a shit. We're not the BBC and those kinds. Actually, BBC, they do really good documentaries, and some of the producers, they're really accurate. So I have to retreat. But other production companies, I've seen a lot of documentaries that are very mediocre. I'm not saying my documentaries are the bomb or anything. I just do what I can with what I have, and I always try to do the best I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I suppose everybody does, but then you watch some shit and they're not accurate at all, or they make shit up, or they talk about 82 and the photos from 88 or whatever. Now I understand that sometimes that could happen, but you gotta be as anal as possible with that
Yeah.
stuff.
you always know personally, I think you always know when a good documentary is made by somebody who respects the work and is a fan of the work because it is
Right.
accurate, as opposed
Yeah,
to,
right.
oh, that's just a cool topic because, like you said, they'll show, pictures from 85 and be talking about 83. It's, you always know that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you try your best with what
Yeah.
you got. That's the thing. I mean, we're of the Roger Corman school. We're not Hollywood. We're all the opposite. So you just gotta do the best you can with what you got. Basically, that's the
Yeah.
philosophy.
Um, is there
But
a band?
also, we've grown up with. I always compare my documentaries to but not to compare to Raw Power or LAMF or the first New York Dolls album or whatever. But those albums we go, the first Clash album, those albums don't sound great. They sound like shit. They sound like they recorded in a shoebox or something. You know what I mean? They're not the best produced albums like Raw Power. I mean, come on. But you love it. We love it. I mean, it's like you wouldn't have it any other way in the end. You know what I mean? So yeah, they're rough. They're really rough around the edges. They're not Bon Jovi albums. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or Kiss albums. They're
Polished.
not perfect
Yeah.
at all. LAMF. I don't know what the fuck happened with the transfer from the master to the vinyl or whatever. I don't know what the fuck happened, but sounds muddy. The band actually split up. Jerry Nolan split up because he hated the fucking album. And it's like, if you release the album like this, I'm quitting the band. And he actually did quit the fucking band. So, but yeah, we grew up with this music that wasn't perfect. So, yeah, when people criticize my documentaries, it's not perfect. Yeah, no, you know what? Perfection doesn't exist. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Again, I'm doing the best I can, and also I'm editing myself. So it's gotta feel it's something when you're editing is something. It's gotta feel good to you. So if it feels good to me, hopefully it will feel good for others.
What has been the most challenging project you worked on so far? Was it at the
Um,
beginning or has it been more recent?
yes, the Clash documentary was it was a battle, after one after another, really, because the nature of the documentary, which is entitled "The Rise and Fall of the Clash," Mick Jones hates hates that documentary because of it says the fall, and
Mm.
I mean, what can I do? It took me forever. Actually, it took Mick Jones' mom to go to Mick Jones' house one Christmas, stay there, and she watched the DVD, and before it was, put out and stuff like a DVD, a burned DVD. And she watched it, and she was like, "Why isn't this out already?" And Mick was like, "Well, I don't like it, this and that." And she was like, "This is the best documentary ever made on the Clash because this guy's telling the truth.
Mm.
This all this all these other guys been lying. Because I mean, look, they they have this. I mean, look, I don't know, man. I don't want to say so many things, but some of these artists, they have the Disney version in their mind, all
Mhm.
right? And Mick Jones doesn't want to live with the truth that is that he was fired in 1983 and the band carried on until 1985 with three other kids that they grabbed from the street. And they recorded one of the worst albums in history, which is Cut the Crap, that came out in 85. And he doesn't want to deal with that. I get it. I wouldn't want to deal with that either. It's one of the worst pieces of shit ever. But that's the truth. That happened.
Yeah.
And actually, it was Vince's White's book that inspired me to do that project. And Vince White was one of the two guitar players that they hired to substitute Mick. You know, so that was very challenging because it took us forever to get the song, the music rights and stuff. Because he just didn't want to sign the release form and give us the okay until his mom told him to do it. I mean, we're now talking thanks to Mick Jones' mom. So thank you,
Yeah.
mom. you know, that's
Uh,
crazy.
yeah. Is there a band that you would love to do a documentary about that you Just
Yeah, I would love to do a documentary on the Stooges or the Cramps, but I got in touch with Poison Ivy through Pearl Harbor, who's still in touch with her and stuff. They're good friends, and she doesn't approve.
Mm.
So I'm not gonna do it if Poison is not into it. If Poison Ivy is not into it, you know. And then with the Stooges, his manager has been always cock blocking us, you know,
yeah,
from interviewing his client and stuff. So this guy takes the fun out of it, you know, and I'm just sick of dealing with, you know.
management seems to want to make Iggy a brand now rather than
Well, yeah, I mean, look, the 21st century has absorbed, the mainstream has absorbed the Ramones logo, the fucking leather jacket, Iggy Pop, all these cool things, a Blondie, all these cool things that we had, and just turned them into a Gucci commercial, you know.
yeah.
And yeah, you have to live with it. It's I understand they want to make their millions and drive their Lamborghinis and shit. I get it. I understand it. I'm not against it, but I'm just asking for a fucking interview. That's all. You know what I mean? And then I
We
see
completely
him.
understand that.
Of course. You know, and then I see him in all these BBC documentaries, HBO series, whatever, Gucci commercials. All right, I get it, dude, but I only need like 30 minutes, you know, of your time. But it's just too complicated, and just managers and agents, these people just take the fun out of it. You know?
Yeah,
I just like to talk to artists directly
yeah.
without any middleman, because otherwise just you know, like I said, takes the fun out, and it's just makes things more complicated and more annoying.
Well, where and when can people see Ghost to the Chelsea Hotel?
Well, that's a bit of an enigma right now, because we're gonna carry on with, we're gonna try to do as many festivals. We're doing a Japanese festival now one of these days. Of course, we're not gonna travel there, but it's happening. I mean, we just gonna try to do as many more screenings and festivals as possible before we release the film, which will be released, I imagine, by May or June next year. So we got another 6 months or 7 months to wait for an actual official release, I suppose.
Yeah, and will you release it big screen first?
No, I don't think so. This premieres we're doing are the only screenings we're gonna do on big screen. You know, then it's gonna be DVD and digital release. You know.
No. And
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's what's going on now. It's just platforms, you know. DVDs are like for freaks, you know, for like collectors and stuff.
like yourself.
But you know, I yeah, man, I cater for freaks,
Yeah,
and I'm really happy with that, you know, because
right on, man.
somebody has to talk about Johnny Thunders and Steve Baders, you know, because the mainstream Hollywood and those motherfuckers, they don't know, they don't give a fuck, they don't have a clue. You know, any corporate motherfucker in a suit, do you think he's got a fucking clue? He doesn't have a fucking clue. You need freaks like me that can dedicate 2 years of his life to Johnny Thunders or Steve Baders or Brian Jones, you know, because nobody else gives a fuck, unfortunately.
It's true. It's 100% true. Where can people find you, Danny, on social media and get updates about the film?
It's chipbakerfilms.com, CHIP baker.com. And that's more or less where I mean, you know, we have social media and stuff like on Facebook as well. But, you know, I'm pretty sick of that shit. I'll try not to involve myself so much in that. I waste time. You know, I got shit to do, you know. I can't be on Facebook and stuff, you know. And Instagram kicked us out for second time in a row, so I don't even do Instagram anymore. Fuck these people, man. I'm sick of them. But it's free publicity, so we need them. You know?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what?
So chipbakerfilms.com is where they can find information on the Chelsea as well as your other films.
Yeah. That's how we try to update it as much as possible and stuff, and people can contact us there and stuff. So yeah.
Well, Danny, man, it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for taking time to talk.
Yeah,
to
man. Likewise, man. Thank you for having me.
I
Anytime.
wanted to make it to the screening in Brooklyn. I wasn't able to, but I'm really excited to watch the movie when it's released.
Yeah, man. Hopefully soon.
All right.
Right.
Our podcast is called "Is Breakfast Included?" And if it was included, what would you have?
I guess a good British breakfast with 2 eggs and bacon and mushrooms, and that thing keeps me going for like good 6-7 hours of the day. So with coffee or juice, something like that, or maybe both.
All right, brother.
That would be my breakfast, and a bit of a slice of bread with butter as well, like they do in England.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
All right, man.
All right, guys, have a good one.
You too. Thanks for your time. It was good
Stay in
talking.
touch. My pleasure, man. Anytime.
Danny Garcia, what a fantastic storyteller. Bernie and I had such a great time chatting with him, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. A huge thanks to Danny for joining us, sharing your stories and experiences. That was great. You can find out more about Danny and all of his films at chipbakerfilms.com. That's chipbakerfilms.com. You can also find Chip Baker Films on Facebook and YouTube. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel, where you can find all 144 episodes, the perfect place to catch up on any you've missed. And you can get all of our merchandise at shop.isbreakfast.com. Our new Oxblood Black t-shirt is not only trendy, but it's a great gift for the holidays. Your support means everything to us, so keep tuning in for more exciting episodes. And remember that around here, breakfast is always included.